Just want to welcome you for being here. I am getting hello from Texas. Okay, I did get one message that you could not hear me. If somebody could jump into the chat and let me know if you can hear. Okay, can hear me now. All right. I think before I wasn't speaking, so that's why you probably didn't hear us, but thank you. Alrighty, so I am going to dive into things because we are about a minute over. So welcome back if you have been to one of our webinars before. Today's webinar is going to be hosted by two of us. Obviously, you can see our shining faces. My name is Betsy Andrews, and with me is Denise Ingledue-Lopez. Sorry, I always jump over your name because I always call you Denise. Okay, so this is our second remote job search webinar within a series of 8 that are going to be run every Tuesday through December 3rd. Before we dive in, I am going to go over a couple of housekeeping items. The webinar is going to last about 30 minutes, and then we're going to have a short Q&A at the very end. Don't worry about trying to take furious notes because a recording of this webinar will be sent out to all registrants, but generally by the end of the week. If you don't see it within your inbox by the end of Friday, please do check your spam folder. Sometimes we get plopped in there. Okay, and then for the question portion at the end, I do ask that any questions that you have put into the Q&A box. Just has more functionality for us, and that way we aren't flip-flopping between 2 different boxes. Then also, if you see questions in there that somebody else has put in, but you're like, hey, I really like that question, put a thumbs up sign, because that lets us know which questions are more popular. Okay, so we aren't going to be able to guarantee that we get to everyone's question at the end, but I do guarantee that you will learn something within this webinar. So let's dive in. And my button's going to work. There we go. For those not familiar with FlexJobs, I do want to give you a short overview. FlexJobs is a job search service that specializes in remote and flexible positions, and we've been around since 2007. We have helped more than 4.5 million job seekers since then and have screened more than 55,000 companies. We are a membership site, which is the opposite of most job boards, but there are lots of free and public parts of our site as well, so please be sure to hop on there and check those out after the webinar as well if you haven't checked us out before. Alrighty, so here is a quick overview of what we will be covering today. Identifying transferable and remote-friendly skills, finding opportunities that might be a good fit, and then expanding your search beyond the job listings. And now I'm going to have Denise kick us off.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started and look at transferable and remote-friendly skills. If we could advance to the next slide.
Oh, sorry, that's probably helpful.
Okay, so you may be asking, we'll go on to the next slide, what are transferable skills? As noted on the slide, these are the skills that are valuable to employers and transfer over multiple industries and organizations. Many of the skills that you use in your current job can most likely be used in a new career field. Some examples might include communication skills, leadership qualities, and time management abilities. These skills are important to include in your resume and will often help with the transition into a new role. So, how do you identify your own transferable skills? Well, you can start by asking yourself these questions as presented here on the slide. Other ways to identify these skills might be to link them as your strengths or think of them as your strengths. Then try focusing on the ones that you enjoy doing every day. This might help you to develop the confidence and visualize career bridges or pivots as you begin exploring your opportunities. You can explore some skills assessments through the careeronestop.org skill matcher, which helps you to identify your most common workplace skills. And the link for this will be included in our recap email. Okay, so we'll go on. So how do you demonstrate your transferable skills? Well, you'll want to start first by taking a fine-tooth comb to the job posting's description. As you look over it, keep a notepad and a pen next to you. Jot down the words and the requirements that are repeated or stand out in that job posting. If they're said over and over again, then you know that that's probably pretty important. So those are some things you'll want to jot down. Document the list of core skills the company wants from applicants for that role on the left side of a sheet of paper, and compare your skills and experience on the right side of that sheet to identify which of your current job skills are transferable and should be showcased on your resume. Now comes the hard part, demonstrating your transferable skills on your resume. In an interview, you pretty much get unlimited space to talk about your transferable skills, but not so on a resume. You have to really keep your points brief and to the point and on target, very concise. Consider using the STAR method to explain how your transferable skills can benefit the employer, because employers really want to know how you've used those skills. This is where you prove that. The proof is in the pudding. So as we talk about the STAR method, STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So on your resume, you'll want to describe a situation you faced, identify the tasks that you had to complete, describe the actions that you took, and explain the results that you achieved. Try to make this as measurable as possible, because employers just love, 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 love percent signs, dollar signs, and numbers. Okay, going on to the next slide. Next, you're going to want to incorporate your remote-friendly skills along with your transferable skills onto your resume. Consider thinking about the skills you already have that makes you a great remote worker. Time and again, when surveyed, remote employers, when surveying remote employers, these skills are consistently noted and are highly important for candidates to have. For instance, written and verbal communication skills. That's going to be really important if you have someone who you work with that works on the other side of the world and you're asleep when they're working. So it's really going to be important that you can communicate both verbally and in written form, so that way you can make sure that you are able to get your point across and they can get their point across and you can get your work done, whatever it is, working as a team. And time and task management and self-initiative. That's going to be really important too, because the worst thing you want to do is have your employer say something like, hey Denise, did you get that project done? You know, being able to get that done and take the initiative to work independently and get those things done. And then also being able to speak and ask proactive questions. It's important to be able to speak up and ask proactive questions, because oftentimes we don't want folks to go, a lot of employers don't want folks to go, well, I'll just go ahead and do it this way, and if it doesn't work, then oh well, and I'll do it over again. Well, it's probably better to do it right the first time. So ask and speak up and ask proactive questions. Comfort and technology, that's going to be important to have, because you know, technology is great until it doesn't work anymore. And then what are you going to do? So it's really important to have some comfort with technology so that you can do some troubleshooting if you need to. And then also having a growth mindset, embracing change and learning. Those are all going to be really important too, because as technology changes and processes change with organizations all over, it's going to be important that you have that mindset of, all right, this is a great opportunity for me to learn something new so that I could be more productive or I can have better results. And then, of course, being familiar with digital communication tools. That's going to be important too, because employers are going to want to make sure that you can communicate via Zoom or Slack or whatever that may be. That's going to be really important. Or if you can do an interview virtually, that's all going to be very important. You know, you can definitely learn those things through free tutorials and YouTube if you don't have those skills. So these are some samples that can be incorporated into the summary and key skills section found at the top of your resume. This part of your resume can easily be updated every time you apply to a job based on keywords and critical skills listed in the job description, as well as sprinkled out throughout your resume. So for instance, skilled at team collaboration while working with distributed teams in remote environment, and technology savvy with an inherent ability to multitask and communicate effectively on teams, in person, and in remote environments. So those are some really good examples of how you can highlight your remote friendly skills. So going on to Betsy.
Which would be good if I unmuted myself. All right, sorry about that. So the next step is to begin searching for the new opportunities based off of your transferable and remote friendly skills. One good way to do this, excuse me, fighting allergies, is to use the advanced search features on job boards. The goal of most advanced search filters is for you to search through thousands of open jobs in a small amount of time. What this means is you want to search smarter, not harder. There could be over 20,000 positions listed on any given day just on the FlexJobs site alone. With the advanced search option, you have greater control in finding opportunities that might be a better match based off of your transferable and remote friendly skills. This allows you to devote your time more wisely on tailoring your resume and cover letter to the identified opportunities through the advanced search filter. We'll include an article that is specific to FlexJobs advanced search feature in the recap email. Next, incorporate alternative search techniques, or what we also like to call a backdoor approach to job searching. Begin exploring and researching companies. The FlexJobs Jobs and Companies page gives you free access to thousands of companies championing flexible and remote work options. As mentioned previously, this is around 55,000 employers. When researching these companies, you can search by one of our many guides. For example, the best companies that hire for remote work from home to flexible jobs allows you to sort by the top 100 companies overall, by industry, or by location, like even wiggling it down to the state that you live in if you're in the US. Remember to try to think more broadly when you're exploring, generate your options, do some research, and then pare down from there. Utilize other resources to capture a full view of the companies as well. Sites to consider utilizing is such as LinkedIn. You can use them for their company presence and also utilizing obviously for future networking, and then Glassdoor for current and former employee reviews.
All right. So think about expanding your job search beyond just job listings. To create your own momentum to move your job search forward, consider cultivating connections through networking. From these connections and relationships, positions may develop that you may not have otherwise known about. This is called the hidden job market, and it's estimated that 80 to 90% of all open positions in the United States aren't listed anywhere. So oftentimes, it often really comes down to who you know. Okay, next slide. Grassroots networking goes beyond professional networks. This is where you start talking to your personal network, your family, your friends, and your neighbors, for instance. And if you're not already connected, be sure to reach out to them on LinkedIn and begin exploring the work they do, their companies, and their other connections. Informational interviews can also be conducted in person, over the phone, via email, on a video, or even a web chat. These really are information gathering meetings rather than a promise of a position, but can be highly beneficial in gaining knowledge to help you make informed decisions in pursuing opportunities that fit you. Okay, so use LinkedIn to identify anyone you might know at a company where you're applying for a job. You can find this in the upper left-hand search box to search for the company's name. In this example, it's United Health. So if you'll go back for a moment. So you can go to their LinkedIn page and click the See All United Health Employees, for example, on the link to the right in LinkedIn. And that's going to show you if you have any extended connections. And if you don't have any connections, you can reach out for an introduction. Consider sending a message to someone that might be a manager of the department where you're applying, or to the in-house recruiter. Here are a couple of examples of how you might craft a message asking for more information. Next slide. Okay. The more I read about your company and think about your mission, the more excited I get, and I'm attracted I am to all the amazing things that you're doing. Okay, that's one example. And there's another one here too. Please let me know if you have a few minutes to chat at some point in the next week or two, or if it's easier for you to respond via email, that works too. I've also attached my resume in case that helps you see where I might be able to contribute to your team. Hoping to hear from you, and thanks for your time. Okay, so these are some great pieces of information that you can just throw out there and have an invitation for an informational interview. And then once you're in the informational interview, 3 great questions to ask might be, what do you enjoy most about your job? What do you enjoy the least? What surprised you about your job? And our guide to informational interviews, questions to ask, tips, and next steps resource will be included in the recap email sent out later this week. All right.
Okay, so let's review the action steps presented in the presentation and then launch you forward. Identify soft and transferable skills, discover your remote friendly skills, demonstrate these skills on your resume, use the advanced search features and filters on our site and others, research companies, and begin networking. Remember, you'll be receiving an email by the end of the week that will include a copy of the recorded session and then any of the resources that we've talked about so far and any more that we may talk about during the Q&A. Please know that in the meantime, you can go to flexjobs.com/blog to access free articles and webinars and resources available to the public as well. Now we are going to answer a few questions with the time that we have remaining. And remember, please do, if you have any questions, pop them into the Q&A box. Okay, what if you have no remote experience working? Okay, so if you don't have any remote experience, that's really, usually when we're talking to people, they have, they either don't know that they have remote experience or they really don't have experience. So I'm going to cover both of those. If you've ever worked within a position and that you weren't getting everything done at the office, you're bringing it home on a regular basis, you're completing projects, you're doing a lot of communications on weekends or after hours, that counts as partial remote. So be sure to reflect that on your resume. If you really truly don't have any remote experience, then it's highlighting those transferable skills that we talked about before, letting them know that you have a lot of self-initiative, what kind of digital tools you are familiar using. And it doesn't necessarily have to be professionally. You can be personally as well, that you're comfortable with Zoom, you're comfortable with Slack, you're comfortable with Google Drive, chats, Hangouts, those types of things. And letting them know that you have a home office, put that within the summary section of your resume, but really reflecting to them that you have the skills necessary to work within a remote environment. And then Denise, I'm gonna let you take the next one.
All right, 90% of my work experience is in one area. Is it better to show transferable skills in bullet points or in the skills section, or both or elsewhere? I do a good job in my cover letters, but feel my resume may be ending up too verbose. Okay, well, there's a couple of things here that we're talking about. We're talking about the length of the resume, which is, it can be up to 2 pages, just depending on your experience. Typically, that's what we see. And as far as your work experience, what you'll want to do again is take a look at that job posting of the job for which you're looking for. And take a look and see some of those key words that they're saying over and over again. Or if you see some things that are listed up higher in what it is that they're looking for. Those are some of the things that you'll want to incorporate into your resume. Using their language. So in other words, you don't want to say attention to detail if they're using detail oriented, because the applicant tracking system is going to pick it up that way. And so you want the applicant tracking system to pick it up the way that it's listed on the job posting. So what I typically do is I say, okay, take a look at the summary of the job. It kind of gives you a brief synopsis of what the job is going to entail. And you can incorporate some of those keywords into your summary, maybe sprinkle a little bit into your actual work experience. And then some of the key skills that they're talking about in the qualifications section, then that's where you're going to also want to put that in your skills. So I look at, okay, what is it that they say are the responsibilities? Because the responsibilities are what it is that you'll be doing there. So you might want to tie that in perhaps to your most recent job description. And then what are the qualifications? That you want to put at the top in your summary and in your skills section. So that's typically what I like to do. I mean, there's other people may have other suggestions. Betsy, do you have any for that?
I'll be honest that I was reading some of the following questions that were
Okay, no
coming,
problem.
but I'm not sure if you touched on, yes, you can address a couple of these things within the cover letter, but do know that with applicant tracking systems, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, it's scanning your resume. It's not going to touch your cover letter.
Right.
So if that important information isn't on your resume of those key skills and what they're looking for,
Exactly.
the machine could eat it is kind of how I word it. In addition, while we do believe, the majority of hiring managers or human resource personnel, they are reading the cover letters. Not all of them are. So you want to make sure if it's important, you get that onto your resume for certain.
Okay, and my screen just went black.
Oh, well, that's not good.
Okay, there it is.
Hopefully that didn't happen to everybody. I
Ah,
am going to kind of pop on for the next questions. There
okay,
were a couple on there that were pretty site specific for us.
okay.
So one of them was, now I lost it. There it is. Possibly. Anyway, somebody had asked how you can save searches. So when you are, and I'm just going to go over this quickly. If you are looking for a position, when you go to your job search activity, there is a spot where you can save searches. To do so, I'm just going to do a quick advanced search here. Sales, location, I'm in Colorado. And just something to point on there that remote organizations have to follow the same tax and labor law rigmarole as on-site organizations. So it's really important to put your location in. But let's say that I really like this list that popped up. So I'm going to click on Save Search. I'm going to name it Sales, and then I click Save. And now it's been saved within my job search activity under Save Searches. So this is another one of those of search smarter, not harder, because then you can pop right in here and start the next day looking at the things that you've already put in, really wiggle down that advanced search like we talked about before. And also for us with FlexJobs, your emails that you receive from us, if you're a member, will be geared towards your saved searches rather than off of your resume profiles. And I'm just going to keep this up here in case we need it again. And you can take the next one, Denise.
Okay, does FlexJobs offer transferable skills testing or some information on their website? We do have some skills testing that you can do on our website. And Betsy, do you have the?
Yeah, I just turned on the Learning
there it is.
Center.
Do you
And
see
then we
right?
have skills testing.
Yes, right there. Okay, so it's going into, what you do is when you're on your dashboard, you go to the Learning Center and then skills test, and then there are different skills tests that you can take there. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. That was an easy one.
Fantastic. Okay, the next one. Can you say more about how to search companies on FlexJobs? It wasn't clear. Sorry that it wasn't clear. And a link will be coming on how to do that as well. But yes, go to my dashboard. Now I have to remember I'm not really the guru on this. Find jobs. Research companies. So this was the list that I was talking about where you can search the list of the top 100, or you can break it down by industries, or you can do it by location and really see the ones that are the most popular for remote and flexible positions within our site.
All right, so let's see. What do you recommend if we have a lot of transferable skills and want to pivot to a new type of role, but don't have all the hard skills of a job interest is asking for? Companies often only seem interested in finding someone who's already held that position or title. Okay, well, that's really interesting that you should mention it. Looks like a woman has asked that question once again.
Usually is.
And typically, if you see a job description or a job posting, it's really what the ideal candidate is that they want if they're going to have a wish list. Okay, so it's basically their wish list. So it's really not necessary to have 100% of all of the requirements that they're asking for, but 60 to 70, whatever their threshold might be. But I would still apply if you have at least 60% of the qualifications listed on that job posting. Typically, women, we have a tendency to want to check all the boxes and make sure that we meet all of those criteria, but it's not absolutely necessary. Again, the job posting is just a wish list. So if you have 60% or more, I would go ahead and apply.
Very much so. We always grin, or I always grin when I hear that question. And like Denise said, it usually is women that ask it because that's our personality. I know for myself, I wanted to know how to tie my shoes before I ever learned how to tie my shoes, and that never went away. I know how to tie my shoes, but you know what I mean. Okay, so what if your only consistent remote experience is due to the recent COVID from like March until June? How do you best maximize that brief experience? Okay, so there's a few ways that you can do that. I would for sure get something within the summary that you have experience working within a remote environment. And then actually after like your title, you can put a vertical line, something along those lines, and then say fully remote March 2020 till June 2020 or till present or however long it lasted. And then probably put a bullet in there that you were able to successfully adapt your work from a non-remote environment to a fully remote environment. And for sure, if your productivity increased during that time, get a bullet in there about that too. Like Denise said during the presentation, employers love money signs, numbers, and percentages. They love to see measurable results. At the end of the day, really truly, what are employers looking for? How are you going to make the money, save the money? What are you going to be able to bring that other candidates, your competition isn't going to be able to? So try to give them as measurable results as possible.
Okay, let's see here. Can a search term like researcher be stored such that I receive alerts, or do I need to return and search during each session on the FlexJobs? I think we talked about the saving of the searching. Basically, you can go ahead and save different roles that you're interested in, and then those will be sent to you whenever those new positions come available. So yeah, you can definitely search a term like researcher, or what I like to do is tell people to search by the skills that they want to use in their job rather than by title, because that way you're going to find a lot more options that are available to you that you may not have thought about. So that might be something that you might want to try as well.
Yep, I fully agree with that. And I tell people that all the time when I'm in the middle of a coaching is try really hard not to get title specific. Because like Denise said, it'll help open up other opportunities. And if anybody's been doing any job search for any length of time, we've all seen that employers have become rather creative in what they call people.
Exactly.
So I mention it on almost every Q&A we do or webinar that the craziest one I ever saw was happiness consultant. And it was an HR representative. Nobody's typing in happiness consultant. So be a little creative in what you're putting in, the types of activities you will enjoy doing, and also any kind of technological platforms that you're super comfortable with, throw that in, see what pops back at you. That can really help too. Just to bounce off of the question that she did talk about with the research or whatever, can you tweak a save search instead of starting over? And yes, you can. You can go in, and I will just click on here, and then let's just say I'm adding more things in here. I want flexible schedule, and I just want it in marketing, and then save it. Oh, maybe, okay, you have to add another one. I thought you could change it, but I guess you have to add another one and then remove the other one. But you can have multiple, so that can help too. How many versions of a resume do I need? Okay, so that's going to be dependent, not knowing your story. That's going to be dependent on what you're pursuing. If you're looking at really different types of positions, like let's say we're looking at writing, but I also want to do sales, then you're going to need to have 2 templates that you work off of, basically. If you're really looking to pretty or similar positions, then you can just have 1 template that you work off of. But be sure to, every time you're applying, customize that resume towards that job description that you're applying to help bolster your success of getting through ATS and also catching that reader's attention. Speak their speak. It's really going to be important to do that. Whether that organization is using an applicant tracking system or not, the first physical read from a human being, we generally have 4 to maybe 11 seconds to catch their attention, so we want to use their wording. All right, Denise, do you want to take one more before we end things here? Uh-oh, unmute. I think you're muted. No, okay. I can't hear you. If not, that's fine.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. It said, what is a way to network if you don't know what kind of career you want to pivot to? Okay, so this is where we have what's called a 4-step process that will help you to determine what it is you want to do when you grow up, for instance. Another thing too is, again, doing that search by skills that you are good at, that you enjoy doing. That's really going to be helpful as well. So you really can't put the cart before the horse. You really have to know what it is you want to do first before you start networking. So that's where I say spending some time doing some soul searching. It's going to take a couple of hours or so if you want to follow our 4-step process, which we'll go ahead and we'll send out also. So that's going to be helpful. And again, as I had mentioned previously, searching by the skills that you like to use is really going to help to open up some options that maybe you didn't think about before.
Very much so. And one of the steps within the 4-step plan is actually doing those informational interviews. If you are making a huge pivot or even a little pivot, I'm a huge proponent of them of, you know, if you're going to be making a change, try to find 2 to 3 people that are doing that job within different organizations. Ask them for that informational interview, and it can really just be, can I meet with you 20, 30 minutes over Zoom? So that you can ask them those kind of questions and get some understanding of what makes a good day, what makes it more challenging, what surprises did you come across along the way? Are there any specific certifications that are required? What are preferred? What are really a waste of time? Those types of things. Because that can, I've seen it happen a few times where people were like, yeah, I ended up talking to some people and that's really not what I thought it was going to be. Because we can do research till the cows come home online, but until you talk to somebody that's actually doing the position and talking to a few, because different organizations are going to do it a little differently, that can really help you generate more of wealth of information before you make that leap.
Exactly.
Alrighty, so thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Like I said, the webinar will be sent via recording by the end of the week. And then we will be adding in those resources that we talked about as well. Have a great day, and we hope to see you next week.